everybody. Welcome back to the RFL podcast. It has been a little bit of a hiatus since we started the season, but of course we wanted to let things play out before we came back onto the show and talked about some of the comings and goings, the interesting things that have been happening across the league as we hit the halfway mark now. And as always, I am joined by Wobbegong to try and break down some of these interesting storylines. Wobbegong, how have you been? Are you enjoying the season so far?
A really good season for the Buffalo Bills, and I guess you, as the Indianapolis Colts owner, you should also be very happy being here at 5-3 after half of the games. I'm really good, but I don't want to listen to our prediction episode in the beginning because we have some surprises here. So always really interesting to dive deep into seeing what happened so far this season. And after 8 games played, already a lot of surprises and a lot of new good teams, but we will cover that today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before we cover some of those interesting topics and storylines, we need to go and rewind ourselves a little bit and talk about some of the trades that have happened between our hiatus and now. And I also agree with you. I don't really want to go back to our predictions episode at the moment because my predictions are looking pretty atrocious at this stage. So let's talk about trades because that will put everyone off, won't it? So, I mean, there's been some interesting ones that we need to try and break down Wobbegong. I think it's best for us to start with the Houston Oilers, who have been the most active in the trade market so far. They completed a deal towards the start of the season, bringing in Jerry Sismore for a 6th round pick, and then they kind of followed it up a little while later with the Raiders picking up the likes of Chris Ward and David Swaley for a 2nd, a 3rd, a 5th, Jim Hanula and Joe Fields. So obviously a bunch of O-line changing for the Oilers there. They are 6-1, so I think it's probably fair to say, don't you, that this has panned out quite nicely for them so far.
Yeah, I mean, really good strategy. And spoiler alert, we will talk about awards again today. And I thought about the Oilers as one of the biggest winners, but the easy way out is to choose another team and talk here a little bit more about them because I really like their moves. They have an incredibly good O-line with Ward 91 overall, Swaley 93 overall, and also Sismore 83 overall. So 3 new starters compared to the beginning of the season. They also have great guards. So their O-line is one of the best in the league. And I talked to the owner actually today, and he also said, well, he did not expect to be competing this year or having a realistic shot at winning the Super Bowl. And the Oilers really have. They're one of the best teams in the AFC and the whole RFL. And those 2 trades, getting the O-line ready for Dan Foots to be one of the better quarterbacks this year, a great strategy. So I like their moves. They did not give up too much, did not get young players, of course, but they want to compete right now, and I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. It's a low-risk move in the sense that they didn't give up a huge amount to acquire these guys. Of course, the age on them is going to be the thing that it's going to be the question mark as they move along. But Swilly's only 29, so that's not too bad. The likes of Ward is 28, and Sismore is 33. So that they've got at least a couple of years out of most of them. So they're going to be around for a while, which means that O-line is going to be pretty elite for a while with Foots. It's going to certainly support him a lot. So I really like the move, and 6-1 kind of proves out that they've had a bit of a blinder so far with that one. On the other side of it, I mean, there's not a lot really to say with the Vikings sending us getting a 6th back. I mean, that's probably just clearing some cap room essentially. But the Raiders had an interesting start to the season, haven't they? They're 4-4 now. But bringing in some additional picks. I know that they decided that they wanted to go a little bit younger this season. That was kind of the off-season direction. But they're sitting top of the AFC West at the moment.
Yeah, we will talk about the Raiders in another trade in a second. I think it's an interesting strategy for them, loading up with picks, seeing where the first season goes under the new owner, and potentially setting them up with a great amount of picks for the upcoming years, young players, and building around that core, trying to get better. And I think in this division, they also have a realistic shot in already winning it this year as a first year under the new owners. So I think the trade, especially with the draft picks and getting younger for them and moving over the older but really good O-liners to the Oilers was a win-win move for both teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was also another trade which was done by the Cowboys and the Jets. The Jets essentially sending Brian Hicks and a second round pick to bring in Beasley Reese, the cornerback there, and picking up a third round pick in the process. Dallas have, I think it's fair to say, had an interesting off season. Been a bit up and down in terms of what was going on there. It's currently sort of obviously down the bottom end of the NFC East, which is unfamiliar territory for them. But in terms of this trade, what do you think? How do you think it looks for the Cowboys and the Jets, and how's it playing out so far?
I think fair value for both of them. The Cowboys needed to get younger. That's also the storyline we talked about during the offseason, and we expected them to take maybe a little bit of a step back. So, yay, one of our predictions seems to be quite correct. But for the Jets, it makes sense. I really like the roster. That's what I also said in the offseason. I actually projected them to be second in our division at the end. And Beasley Reese is a really, really good cornerback, 30 years old. So they got 3 years older on cornerback, but also better. So especially for this defense, they again also want to compete now. So I think that was a good move. Reese is one of the better cornerbacks, and they sent back Brian Hicks, as said, 27 years old. Looks worse than Reese, but that's why they got a little bit older prospect and also sent a higher pick to the Cowboys. So makes sense for both of them. And the Jets defense, especially on paper, looks really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the deal made sense for both teams. I really liked it for the Jets, but that's because obviously the Jets are, as you said, probably more of a push than Dallas are at the moment. And I do like Reese as a player, so I think it's a great move for them. Again, adding some additional back talent is really, really needed in the AFC. So I'm not surprised they pulled that move off. And then on Dallas' side, you said they're kind of getting younger. They've got cap issues, so they're trying to kind of manage their way through. But I think, fair to say from our predictions, it looks like this might be the season where Dallas kind of fall away a little bit and don't make the playoffs, which is surprising. I thought we'd never see that, really, given how well they did last year. And then that brings us to our final trade, which happened, Wobbegong, which was, of course, probably the biggest one, and of course it involved you. So we have, obviously, your former superstar quarterback in Cliff Stout moving to the Oakland Raiders for an 86 first and an 86 second. Do you want to just take us through? I mean, I know we kind of probably talked about this a little bit previously with your draft acquisition of Oziki from Green Bay there, but I guess your thoughts on it in terms of the move and how it kind of played out.
Yeah, I think it all started with a little bit of an overreaction on my end after the Super Bowl loss against the Saints. They had a pretty impressive offense with a quarterback that was able to quickly move around the ball and totally get by my defense. Cliff Stout, on the other hand, seemed nervous and not ready for the Super Bowl, which is the irony. Just one season earlier, he won the Super Bowl and played a pretty important role. I was thinking, okay, Cliff Stout will most likely be traded within the next 5 years, something like that. I will always keep an eye open if there is an option to get better. And I was lucky to get Sandy Oziecki in a trade with the Packers. Sleeper pick, and I took a shot at it and thought, well, okay, he still needs some development. I invested a mini camp in him and thought to get this player skill up, he maybe needs to sit at least 1 or 2 years. And I started him against the Chargers and against the Cowboys this year, where I thought, well, these could be games that he might be able to already prove his value. And after that, I just said, well, if someone's interested in Cliff Stout, I'm open for a good offer. And that's how the talks with the Raiders started. I also had talks with other teams where it would have made sense. But for the Raiders, also when we look at their offense, they really needed a good quarterback that's able to open the long pass game for them and play or give an advantage to their weapons. And I think Cliff Stout definitely makes sense for them. And a first and second round pick was something where I thought, well, okay, Cliff Stout, thank you for your service. I will always remember you as my Super Bowl winning quarterback, but maybe it's time to get younger. And so far, it seems to be the right decision, setting ourselves up for the future with 2 additional top 40 picks and or top 50 picks, sorry. And will be interesting to see. A little bit of a risk on my end, but hopefully Zandy Oziecki develops and continues to play like he started the year.
Yeah, really interesting breakdown. Thanks for sharing that with us. Yeah, look, I mean, I'll give you my reaction. I think it was a really interesting move for both teams. I love these types of bold trades. If I step into your shoes, I completely understand why you've done it, and you've already seen signs that Oziecki is the future man. So why not just get him in there early and get him developing as quickly as you can, because you have all the talent around him now. So you might as well try and make the best of it at this moment in time. I really like it from the Raiders' perspective as well, and I'll tell you why. Because when we looked at this Raiders team, and I'm sure we've mentioned this on the pod previously, but we've always kind of said that even prior to Justin coming in and taking over the GM team, they always perform very well, the Raiders. And the only thing that I think I've always said that maybe has held them back has been the quarterback position. Williams is good, but he's not that elite player. Stout, you could argue, is, given how his performances have been. Super Bowl aside last year, he has always performed very, very well. So I'm really excited to see how the Raiders continue to progress with him, because I think he might give them a little bit of elevation, a little bit of additional value out of the offense to kind of take them to that next level eventually. So I'm really interested. I think fair value, first and second round pick is a fair value for Stout. So no surprise that that was the price that they had to pay for him. But yeah, I kind of really liked it for both teams. I think it's going to be really interesting. I also secretly really hope that there's a match-up in the playoffs between you and the Raiders, just to have that iconic storyline of the guy you traded away for the youngster is back to see if he can put vengeance back over on you. I think that'll just be one of those wonderful RFL moments that we seem to always have come up every single season. So I'm kind of keeping an eye out for that one.
We will play each other in 2 weeks, so we already get the match, and that will be Stout's second start since he did not start now in week 8. But in week 10, the Bills will play the Raiders, so Stout already has his chance to get his revenge. I will definitely mark that on my calendar. But yeah, as you said, as of right now, it seems to be a realistic rematch then in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when the playoffs happen, because that's when it counts. That's when you go home if you lose.
Sure.
So great to see there's going to be a regular season game as well. Yeah, so that brings us. That's all the trades that have happened so far. I'm sure as we get towards the deadline next week, there might be some more, and we'll probably be back on the next episode to kind of talk about that. But now it's mid-season. Now is an appropriate time for us to kind of talk about some of the other things that have been going on. And as usual, we try to break this down by different areas. So for anyone who's followed along before, apologies. This is going to be the same spiel that I gave last season, but essentially what we task ourselves with at the mid-season is we look at who we think the biggest winner is so far, whether that is a particular team, a particular GM, or a particular player. Likewise, who's probably the biggest loser so far? What's been the biggest surprise that we've seen? Do we have any bold predictions as we head into the rest of the season? And is there a most improved player that we can already see coming through and sort of shining a spotlight on that as we progress? So, Wobbegong, I think we'll start with the biggest winner so far. And who did you have down, or what team or GM or player did you have down for something that's just really doing well so far this first half of the season?
Yeah, I mentioned the Oilers as one team that we already talked about during the trade, but another team where I definitely need to apologize are the Philadelphia Eagles. Both of us did not think that they have a realistic shot at winning, or maybe a realistic shot at winning, but we did not predict them to win the NFC East. We thought, maybe last year a little bit of a down year, they could improve themselves a little bit, but at least myself, I did not think that after half of the season, they would lead the NFC East with 5 wins, 3 losses, tied with Washington, but already a very impressive season. They have an elite defense, the best in their division, but also the best in their conference, as far as I see that. So really, really impressive in that regard. When we look at their rookies, some of them already played an impact. George Jamison, their first pick, they had their first pick in the second round. Linebacker already with 2 sacks and 3 forced fumbles. So that's pretty impressive. Already 7 tackles for loss, 54 tackles. So good pick here. And also their center, Bruce Koserski, second round pick, played a decent role, seems to be a starter so far, 2 sacks allowed, 12 pancakes. So a good addition on the O-line. And then also some other players who got rotational snaps. But yeah, so far the defense looks really good. Joe Ferguson on offense also seems decent so far. Best completion percentage since 4 years with 71%. Already 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So this can improve a little bit. His QBR of 97.4 is a little bit better than last year, but still far away from his 4 great years at the Eagles. So if he can improve that and get their weapons in, this will be a very, very scary team. In Charlie Young, they have a good running back who significantly improved his average compared to last season from 3.9 yards per carry to 4.4. Also, he got better. And Steve Burks is a really good addition from the New England Patriots. I think he was a free agency addition already at 3 touchdowns and leading the team with 466 yards. So great moves in the offseason, and they improved a lot and are now at the top of the NFC East. So maybe a little bit of a surprise, and for me, the biggest winner so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good shout in terms of the Eagles. Given I agree, we both didn't see them kind of topping this division at all. So yeah, really, really, really great first half of the season for them. I think the fascinating thing from my perspective is that how good the defense has been, despite probably not having on paper the best set of personnel available to them. I mean, they do have some elite talents like LeMaster and Foyley around, but if you look at some of the other guys, it is more about fit than it is about actual just pure talent. So really, really well done by the Eagles to kind of blend that into one of the top defenses in the league. So yeah, 5-3, and they don't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. And as you kind of alluded to, I think if Ferguson continues to sort of improve his consistency and kind of get some of those numbers up a little bit, from being probably a mid-tier offense to maybe a top 10 offense, this team is going to be absolutely deadly. And I'm interested to see how that progresses throughout the rest of the season. My biggest winner was also in the NFC, but it wasn't the Eagles. It was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we talked a little bit about the Buccaneers, I believe, last time, as to how it'd be interesting to see how the man Boomer does as a rookie, and whether he can take this team from being a non-playoff team to being a playoff team. And when we said that, I don't necessarily think I suggested that they would be probably one of the top teams in the NFC, but they certainly are looking like it at the moment. And not just on the offensive side of the ball, on both sides of the ball, they are a top 10 team now. Boomer has been fantastic. The O-line has sort of been improved with Cross and Co kind of coming in. But this team now is really, really looking like a deadly force. And, Boomer for Rookie of the Year is a great shout. I know someone's going to be shouting at me about Steve Young down the comments on here, but he's looking great. 70% completion, 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions is a great ratio, and 108 on the QB rating. So he's looking like he's going to be a real elite quarterback for this team. And given that where the team is now, sitting proudly atop 6-2 and comfortably got some breathing room between them and teams like the Vikings, who we kind of said would be a contender this year. Really, really good start from them, and I'll be interested to see if they can continue with this and going into the postseason and possibly being a real deadly force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, full transparency here. We already talked the awards to avoid any double nominations, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have been first for me as well, either in biggest winner or biggest surprise. We expected them to take a step forward, but both of us still had the Minnesota Vikings comfortably winning the NFC Central. Yeah, the Bucks just lost against the Vikings this week. Otherwise, it would have been even more clear lead for them. But so far, incredible work by Cotton. Bringing in Boomer Esiason. I already talked about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers draft, and that was one of my favorite drafts. And yeah, you can definitely see why Boomer Esiason plays a really good season. Kevin Mack, their third round pick and running back, leads all the rookie running backs in terms of yards. He already has 5 touchdowns and an average of 5.3. Also, free agency addition Pat Tilley, who came from the Chargers, plays a good year. And also their second round linebacker that we really liked during our off-season episode, Vaughn Johnson, plays a really, really good season so far with 41 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, and 3 sacks, plus 1 interception. So great work by Cotton. What an offseason. And so far, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers look really, really good. So it will be very interesting to see how many more games they can win. They have a very doable schedule. So I think they will for sure make the playoffs and maybe also win the NFC Central.
Yeah, so that moves us on to probably our biggest disappointment so far. And mine is a fairly straightforward one, I think, just given the finish last season to where they are this season. And that is, unfortunately, the New England Patriots. We kind of talked about them in the off-season as a team that really didn't make many moves, but probably didn't need to because they were just so good last season. They had a phenomenal record. They kind of got unlucky in the playoffs in that the one game decider against you guys in the Buffalo Bills. But they've gone from being that top-end perennial team to being down the bottom of the AFC East, which is, I'm sure, not where they expected to be this year. Currently sitting with that 2-4 record is not going to be sitting nicely for the Patriots. And just looking at some of their scheduled matchups to go, I mean, they really have quite a tough running as well because they are playing a lot of teams in and around, obviously, the division who have got winning records, obviously. But then they've also got to play the Broncos, who are playing fairly well. The Cardinals will obviously be looking to get back up on top in their respective division. It's going to be really, really tough for them to kind of turn this one around now, given where they are and where the strength of schedule is heading for them.
A tough season for them. Maybe they don't want to turn things around. I think making the playoffs will be a long shot right now. So yeah, maybe if you pick between 10th and 15th overall, you have a chance on getting a good player and being ready for next season. Steve Grogan, of course, is not getting any younger. He's 31 so far, with on pace to have his season with the most interceptions. So maybe that could be one reason, but it's really tough to tell. No notable players that left the Patriots. They tried to get stronger, but so far, yeah, especially on defense, not what they hoped for. So fully agree that they hope for more this season. Maybe next season will be better, but I think this season, not the best version of the Patriots that we've already seen.
Yeah, I think so. I think, as you said, it's a long shot for the playoffs now. So Steve Grogan getting another year older. Be interested to see what they do in the off season and towards the rest of the season, whether they take a bit of a retooling already. But yeah, who did you have as your sort of biggest disappointment so far this year?
I tried to make it quick, and we expected the Seattle Seahawks to be bad, but yeah, sometimes they do not only look bad this year, they look really bad. The first 2 games, they've been outscored by 0 to 97, so that's not good. They have the worst offense in the league in terms of points per game, yards per game. 26, the worst defense, best defense, so a third worst defense in points per game is allowed. Also, yards per game allowed, second worst defense. So it's not looking good. We expected them to be in a rebuild, but when we also look at their draft picks, only Eric Williams, their top 6 pick, is having an impact. The rest of the players, especially when we look at the wide receiver, picked 23 overall. He has 6 drops, so he needs to get better. The wide receiver picked in the second round, Derwin Williams, did not even see a snap yet or did not record a stat, so that's not the best second round pick. They have 2 first round picks next year and 4 second round picks, which they definitely need. But so far, it's really tough to get excited about the Seahawks for the next few seasons. Also, 8 of their top 10 best players is over 30 years old. And with the trade deadline approaching, I would highly recommend the Seahawks to get active and try to ship some of the players to contenders to get more draft picks. The season is over. The players are not getting any younger. And yeah, biggest loser for me because the Seattle Seahawks maybe do not look 1 or 2 years away, but maybe 3 or 4 on having a roster again that is able to compete.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough when you go through those rebuilding phases as to, whilst you may think you have hit the bottom in a certain year, sometimes it's very hard to get that ship corrected and turned around. And we've seen examples of that go very, very fast in the likes of maybe Washington is probably one I'd call out as a one season turnaround pretty much. But there are much more difficult challenges out there, and it looks like Seattle are going to be in a tough challenge. Like probably the Chicago Bears is one we could call out as well. They've also looked at rebuilding. Going to be a long uphill battle, I think. But hopefully they can get something out of the next draft and get themselves corrected quickly and not on that upward shoot that they will desperately want to be on. But that brings us to probably our biggest surprise so far. Who did you have down for that?
Yeah, we just talked about the worst offense in the RFL. Now, as the biggest surprise, I want to talk about the second worst offense in the RFL, and that's the New York Giants. And that has been a very big surprise for me, especially given last season they had a really good team, or on paper they also have really, really good players. And now sitting at the bottom of the NFC East, a tough schedule for sure. But really unexpected that they will fall off that badly. When we look at Neil Lomax, their starting quarterback, only 25 years old, 91 overall, really, really good, but only 5 touchdowns and 8 interceptions so far this year. Last season, he had 17 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. So he's on pace to surpass that by a big amount. A completion percentage so far, his first percentage was 65%. Now he's at 53. So the offense is not clicking. Their leading receiver, Stanley Morgan, has 343 yards and did not catch a single touchdown so far. Howie Long looks good on defense, so that's the good news. He's on pace to maybe break Mark Gastineau's sack record for the year. So incredible performance by him. But the New York Giants is more than just Howie Long. And so far, especially on offense, I'm really surprised that it looks that bad.
Yeah, the New York Giants are just an interesting team in the sense that I think for probably the past 2 seasons we've talked about them every time at the midpoint, and always probably been the same story, I think, actually, which is we think this team could be a contender, and on paper they are a contender, I think, and don't know what it is that's they're in obviously a very, very, probably the toughest division in the whole of the RFL. So let's get that out of the way first. They are an incredibly tough division to even win or even get into the wildcard slot. But given where the team is in terms of its rankings and being sort of that bottom 2, bottom 3 team in terms of offense and defense, it's a real tough one to kind of square that together, really. I don't think the Giants need to rush into anything. I think maybe it's going to be just another season of being down the bottom, adding some additional talent, and I'm sure. I'm sure. I don't know about you, Wobbegong, but I'm sure that one season will turn up, and we'll be talking about the Giants being 8-0 at the halfway mark, and going, "This is the Giants team that we expected to see 2-3 years ago, and it just hadn't clicked." And for whatever reason, it's now clicked. And yeah, it always bemuses me the Giants, and I really hope they do turn around and turn it on a dime, because it's a team and a franchise and a GM that I really want to see win. Really want to see win the RFL. Really.
Yeah, and especially now with the owner saying that basically everyone except from the top 5 stars is available. Yeah, I'm really interested to see where the Giants go, because I don't think that they are a rebuild team. As you said, we both think that they could be contenders, and maybe not this season, but if they do the right moves again next season, and again, that's what we said the last few years. But they look really good on paper. So biggest surprise that they are at this point right now to offer maybe older star players to maybe get into a small rebuild. Will definitely be interesting to see where the Giants go for the rest of the year and also next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my biggest surprise so far is going to be heading back over to the West and talking a little bit about the Kansas Chiefs, a team that we have talked about plenty of times before, being a tough rebuild situation. Obviously, Steve Young going there as the number one pick this year. We kind of alluded to the fact that we thought they would probably be around where they are, which is a 3-5 sort of situation. But let's put this down into a bit of paper. So they are the fourth best offense in the league, first in yards per game. They are 19th on defense. So the reason I'm saying they're a big surprise is because they are currently sitting third in the AFC West, not far behind everyone else above them, game or so behind. And if they can just tweak the defense and get it maybe up to maybe being that sort of mid-tier defense, they have a real legitimate shot, I think, of winning the AFC West now. And of course, we're going to be talking about Steve Young and how great he's been. Numbers have looked fantastic, similar to Boomer Esiason. I think going to be really interesting to see the Rookie of the Year competition when we get there. But no doubt the offense has been completely revolutionised by him and improving that. But this team has a legitimate shot at making the playoffs, and I think that's the surprise for me. I expected them to be in this mid-pack, but probably not anywhere near the Raiders, probably a little bit further away from the Seahawks and probably the Broncos at the time. But that's my surprise. I'm surprised that the Kansas City Chiefs are sitting here at the mid-season mark, and they are very, very close to being a playoff contender now.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, Steve Young just plays incredible, and it's really, really nice to see what he did to this franchise. And there will be some debates about him or Boomer Esiason as Offensive Rookie of the Year. Maybe. I think Steve Young also has an outside shot of winning the MVP because he plays incredible. 77 completion percentage, 13 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. But he's also a threat as a rusher. 451 yards, 7.5 average. That's incredible good, and 3 rushing touchdowns. He is, for sure a weapon, top 5 quarterback so far in terms of passing yards and passing touchdowns, and best rushing quarterback. And when we compare that to running backs, he's in terms of rushing yards at position 33, so best non-running back in the league. He's just incredible, plays outstanding, and for me, the main reasons why the Chiefs are where they are. Of course, the owner did a great job of rebuilding this team, and I think they're, as you said, not far away from making the playoffs. So I will closely follow them this season, and at latest next season, that's a team we're realistically talking about for winning the division.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think I'll be following them. They've got some really interesting games coming up, which will be sort of the make or break. Obviously, the Broncos coming up next is going to be sort of the biggest game for them in terms of if they can get that over, they can probably leapfrog the Broncos then. Got some tough games. They've obviously still got to play the Raiders twice, which is going to probably make or break that division title, I think, for them. But they've got a shot, which is great to see. And switching back over to what I think is my bold prediction, I'm going to throw my one out there first. Is if we go back over towards St. Louis, and we talk a little bit about, of course, one of the stars of the league, which is Walter Payton. So my bold prediction is going to be twofold, and I'm interested to get your views on it, Wobbegong, which is Walter Payton. So let's scroll down to his rushing yards. I think he has a legitimate chance of breaking his own rushing season record, which is the league record. He's on 1,344. I think the record is 2.7 approximately. So he has a really good shot at breaking that. And my bold prediction is going to be that I think Walter Payton will break his rushing season record and therefore break the RFL record. But I also think, this is the kicker for it, that St. Louis, who are sitting currently at 4-4, will not make the playoffs. So they'll have Walter Payton breaking the rushing record for the season, but the team will not make the playoffs.
Very interesting. That's definitely bold because two things need to happen. I think there's a shot that the Cardinals will not make the playoffs. When we look at the rest of the games, they will play your Colts, the Giants, Washington, Jets, Bills, Eagles, Cowboys, Patriots. So no easy team in there, and will be tough rest of the year, especially with some divisional games in one of the toughest division in football. But Walter Payton looks unstoppable, but despite that, they need to score more points. So I could see that happen. They have the number one rushing offense, but only number 15 in points per game. So this combination so far looks to come true. Will be interesting to see. Walter Payton, of course, the best running back in our league, has been for some years also when we look at his receiving stats. Maybe not this season, but for the last few years, also a really, really big weapon there. For sure, he has the chance to break that record, and he's just an incredible player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like to think things that if it's twofold, I can put some odds down, and I think I'll get good odds for that one. Just given it'll be someone providing top offense, but the team not progressing in the way the top offense would reflect. But yeah, what's your bold prediction then heading into the second half of the season?
Yeah, my bold prediction is called defense wins championships, and that's not a bold prediction, but I will come to that in a second. So far, offenses look really good. When we look at league stats compared to last year, basically all offense stats are predicted to be higher than last year. So offenses have been good, but also defenses are not too bad. And so far, we are on pace to have more sacks and more hurries compared to the season average so far and also last season. I don't want to get too statistical here. But my main prediction, last year, the Steelers had the best defense with 252 points allowed. And that's a pretty easy calculation if we go to the standings page and look at all the points allowed per team this season. So all the teams who have less than 126 points allowed are on pace to be better than the best defense last year. And these are 5 teams right now. We have the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC. Washington is close, but not below the 126. We have the Buffalo Bills, your Indianapolis Colts. The New York Jets are also pretty close with 127. We have the Houston Oilers and again Pittsburgh to break their own defense record last year. So it's not an overall record, but just compared to last season, 5 teams are on pace to have a better defense. My prediction is that at the end of the year, 3 teams will have less than 252 points allowed. So defenses will step up this year. But not only that, my main bold prediction is that the best 2 defenses, so the best defense in the NFC and the best defense in the AFC, will meet each other in the Super Bowl. And that's a long way. When we look at the current standings in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles would make the Super Bowl as the best defense. And in the AFC right now, the best defense are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they, of course, have a shot to make the playoffs with their very important win against the Oilers. But also your Indianapolis Colts are really, really close on being the best defense, and Oilers and Bills as the other teams I mentioned. Jets also look good with a realistic chance to make the playoffs. So yeah, as said, my bold prediction is the best defense of the NFC will face the best defense in the AFC in the Super Bowl. What's your thought on this bold prediction?
It's really interesting. It's a really interesting one to kind of think about. And I've never had it as the best defense. I've always had it, I think you need a top 5 defense to kind of get to the Super Bowl. So, there's a bold prediction there that you'll probably say it's going to be the best on either side of the conferences. I would love to see a Philadelphia Pittsburgh Super Bowl. That would be really interesting. I'll have to wait and see. I mean, there's a couple of teams that, as you said, that maybe are in sort of that top defense thing, but I think there's something else that you've mentioned that's worth us just alluding to, which is, so, correct in saying this, that you think that overall the top end defenses are going to get better this year from where they were last year. So we're saying overall the league's defenses at the top end are getting much, much better.
Yeah, so far it seems to be that way, especially when we look at points allowed. There are really, really big differences. As said, there are 5 teams who allowed less than 126 points. There are a lot of other teams who are already above 200, closing in on 300. So there's a large gap in the league. I don't know if the gap has been that big also last season, but that's something preparing for this episode where I thought, well, defenses are very interesting this season with some really, really elite defenses. And some low scoring games, some other games where we have a huge amount of points against medium or bad defenses. So yeah, that's just one trend I noticed this season. Will be interesting to see if it comes true. I remember my last bold prediction was very bad. I said a team that has not won the Super Bowl will win it. And yeah, in the end, we had the Saints and the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. So maybe this time with the Eagles and Steelers as it stands right now, will be interesting to see how the defenses develop. But yeah, that's my bold prediction. And I think that's bold enough.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see that. I'm on a high here because my bold prediction came true last year. It was Herbert winning the Rookie of the Year. So no pressure.
That was a good call.
if you win this year, we're back 1-1. So we'll have to see who wins win take all in season 3. But yeah, interesting one. I'd be fun to see whether that one plays out as well. Let's turn our heads to the final section that we kind of have for today's episode, which is the most improved player of the season. So we actually came up with 2 different numbers here, 2 different guys here, and I'm gonna make my case for my most improved player first, and then I'll see what you think, and we can talk about your guy. But mine is going to be, if I head on down here, if I can find him, it is Henry Ellard. So Henry Ellard obviously came in as a top 7 pick a couple of seasons ago now, and he had an okay first season. He's putting up fairly good numbers. But the thing I would say is that he was dropping a lot of catches. He was doing okay. His first down percentage was pretty much league average. He had plenty of targets, and he put up 928 yards, respectable for a rookie wide receiver. But to compare that with this season would be like night and day, really, in the sense that he's already got 610 yards. He already has 5 touchdowns to his 7 last year. He's only dropped 3 this year, and his actual first down completion percentage is up a whole 10%, and his yards per game is up a whole 18 as well. So for me, I think Henry Ellard has started to now step into where he was, which was a top 7 pick, which means in my book you probably should be one of the better players at your position, probably. He's now starting to step into that, and this coincides quite nicely with how the 49ers have been improving actually this season, whilst they're certainly not a playoff team, I don't think, yet. But Henry Ellard is now starting to look like he could be a legitimate, very solid wide receiver 1 going into the rest of the season and into next season.
Yeah, he looks really, really good. And when we look at his stats, he has 610 yards, the second best wide receiver on the team, just above 350. So he's the most important players for the 49ers who, looked decent with the 3-3 record 2 games ago, now on a 2-game losing streak. So again, will be interesting to see what they're doing and what their decision on quarterback will be for the next few years. Henry Allard, as you said, great player and good choice for the most improved player.
So coming in, Wobbegong, who did you have for your most improved player?
Yeah, I was just about to mention him. I talked a lot about defense today, so I want to stay on that side of the ball and talk about a player in a defense that's maybe not too noticeable. Denver Broncos defense, 21st points per game allowed and always in the 20s when we're looking at pass defense, rushing defense. But one player under the radar stands out, and that's their linebacker, Dennis Johnson. 26 years old, former second round pick, 83 overall, great tackling, versatile in my opinion. And looking at the last seasons, he has been, or it's his second season for the Broncos. Last year, he had an incredible 140 tackles, 40 tackles for loss. That's nice. Also 2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. But before that, for the New Orleans Saints, he did not play a role, was a rotational player with barely any snaps. So a starter for the Broncos, and especially now in his second year for the Denver Broncos. Big step up. So he's on pace to break his own tackles for loss record. He's on pace for 44 tackles less than last year. But he already has 3 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. That's the amount of forced fumbles he had in his entire career combined so far. 4 sacks, that's 1 sack more than he had in his entire career. So he looks really, really good as a cornerstone for the Denver Broncos. And when we look at the performance, he's the 3rd best linebacker in the year, trusting the stats, just behind Lawrence Taylor and Ricky Jackson from the Bills. So elite company here. Maybe an under the radar player, but for me, the most improved player, and really interesting to see him having a really good season on the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to you. I kind of agree. I think Dennis Johnson is a really underlooked guy. As you said, he's kind of had to bide his time in the league in New Orleans. Then he got to Denver. He just got a bunch of snaps last year and probably finding his feet a little bit. And this year he's kind of put that down and actually put quality on top of that starting position that he has now. So yeah, Dennis Johnson, I really like that shout. Most improved player. And again, kind of nicely fits in with how the Broncos have been doing this year, which means that they, again, 4-4, they're looking like they could be a division contender as well. So yeah, massive props to the Broncos and to Dennis Johnson. I think, yeah, most improved player. I kind of agree with you at this halfway mark. And that brings us to kind of the close of this episode's podcast. Wobbegong, any final thoughts and reflections before we close up?
Yeah, really interesting games. I think we will play each other twice still, so that will be 2 very important games for winning the division, or maybe for the Jets to overtake both of us. So Dolphins still have a shot. Most divisions are still very, very open, and we have no division with more than 2 games where the leading team is in front. So a lot of excitement and still a lot of changes to be happen in most divisions in the RFL. Really looking forward for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I can't wait to see the second half of the season. And given every division is being competed for still, it's going to be really interesting to see how the running works. But Wobbegong, thank you very much for coming along to today's episode. And I'm sure we'll be back to talk about future trades at the deadline and playoff predictions and a lot more coming up for the rest of the season.
Yes, sounds good. Thanks everyone for listening. And if you have a take on any of trades that happened or want to talk about your team, always feel free to reach out. We're happy to include you into the episode or read a text you send. Always nice to get in different perspectives.